So morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the webinar we've put on today. Obviously, as you'll have seen from the email broadcast that we sent out, this is the first sort of introduction to QuickBooks, and we've got Jacob here with us today that will be running through this webinar and also doing a second one next week as well. It's good to see so many of you sort of come along. Feel free to use the chat box to ask questions as we go along. We'll be here to sort of help and sort of guide through. Want to make sure that you get the most value out of it. As many of you are aware, reason for doing this is we've built a good relationship with QuickBooks, very pleased with the product and so on that they've got on offer. But also this is ahead of people needing to do things with regards to making tax digital. We know many of the people that have signed up for it, clients, you're already using it. So again, this would just be a great little intro into some more features and so on that you can use. Make sure you're getting the best out of it, and then also just help us to help interact with you even more with regards to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Jacob now, leave him to run it. As I said, please do use the chat box for any questions that you've got. So thank you.
Brilliant. Morning, everyone, and thanks very much, Dan. As mentioned, I work for the service delivery team at QuickBooks, working very, very closely alongside Riverview on the two webinars that we've got. And the first one here is increasing efficiency in your business with the QuickBooks mobile app. What I'll do is just tell you a little bit about the platform we're using. On the right-hand side, as you all seem to have found, we've got the chat box. So feel free, if you've got any technical issues at all, if you can't hear me, for example, feel free to put them in the chat box there. If you scroll down the page where I'm speaking now, just below where I'm speaking, you've got 3 tabs. There's the questions tab. Feel free to put any questions you like in there. We'll try and answer them throughout. We've got a dedicated time at the end for Q&A as well. But, you know, if you have a question, it's a burning question, put it in there. Equally, if you want to put your question in the chat box, that's absolutely fine as well, as long as you feel free to put that question in there. If we can't answer it on the webinar, we'll get back to you as well. Next to the questions tab is a polls tab. Now, sort of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire here, I can't see you guys, but I like to, you know, understand a little bit more about you. So I've got a few polls in there, which I'll ask you to answer at different points. Feel free to do that. Now, in terms of an agenda today, we're going to go through quite a hefty agenda. We're going to go through a little bit about the mobile app. We're going to go through a little bit about quick invoicing and quicker payments using that mobile app. And I'm going to show you a little bit about bank feeds and bank rules using QuickBooks Online as well. So a lot of people say to me, you know, why are we pressing on with the mobile app? Why are we showcasing it? And it's very simple. We're looking to make you more efficient as a business. And that efficiency piece is really, really important. Is it that you want to have a better work-life balance? Is it you want to spend less time in your books and more time in your business? Is it that you want to save money or save time? That's what that efficiency piece means. And the mobile app is absolutely massive to it. Okay. We know that small businesses are spending approximately 1/3 of their year every year on admin alone. That's about 120 days, and the majority of that is done after working days. So even if there's a tiny way that we can improve that efficiency, then the mobile app's a great way to do it. We've invested a lot of time into it, a lot of effort. It's very quick and easy to use, and I really think you'll like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you my screen. Now, unfortunately, myself and Dan are going to disappear, but you should still be able to hear me. And I'm just going to share with you the QuickBooks mobile app that I've got here. Now, first and foremost, there are 3 sort of models, 3 flavors of the QuickBooks mobile app. Now, this is the iPhone model. Equally, if you have an Android or if you have an iPad, you've got 2 other options there as well. All of them have the exact same functionality, albeit they have slight visual differences. Naturally, the iPad, of course, has a much bigger screen. So some people prefer that. I use my iPhone all day, every day, so I much prefer the iPhone model on there. And you are able to, if you haven't already done so, you're able to download the app on the App Store. So Google Play, Apple App Store. If you type in QuickBooks Accounting, the first one that comes up there will be this app. And it's absolutely free for anybody that has a QuickBooks license. And you just use your standard login information that you use to log into QuickBooks Online. And across both app stores, we have an average rating of 4.7 out of 5, which just gives you a flavor based upon how many people are using the app of how brilliant people find it. Now, without further ado, if you want to go to the polls section, remember just below the screen now, if you scroll down, you've got questions and polls. The first one is, have you ever used the QuickBooks mobile app before? Just let me know, yes or no. I quite like it. It's sort of like, again, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Ask the audience. Absolutely no right answer here, by the way. Brilliant. Okay, so quite a few of you haven't, some of you have. So for those who haven't, this will be absolutely fantastic opportunity to understand a little bit more about it. And for those who have as well, it'll be a good refresher. I love that. 75% no. Brilliant. Thank you all for filling in that poll. That's brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at the mobile app. Now, you'll notice that the mobile app is split at the top into two sections. I've got my business name at the top, JE Coaching, and it is a test account for this webinar. But it's split into two sides. I've got the dashboard and I've got the activity. Now, the dashboard's going to give me a snapshot of my business based upon the information I have in QuickBooks. So obviously, the more information I have in QuickBooks, the better this will be. First things first, my profit and loss, my P&L, my income versus my expenses. Pretty crucial if I want to give a good understanding of my business. I don't have to be an accountant to understand that I need to be in net profit on there. Now I can see here in the top right, it says last 30 days. And what I'm able to do is I'm able to change that time period if I want to give myself a slightly different snapshot of that profit and loss. So let's say I want to look at the whole year. We can see where I'm at, £784 profit. If I want to know a little bit more, I can click in on view profit and loss. Everything's clickable. I get a nice little graph in there. I can see a report at the bottom, and it just means I'm going to get a little bit more insight into my business. I can go to my accountant and say, hey, can you explain to me, why my income is X, why my expenses is X, etc. So it's good to know. If you scroll down, we've got invoices, and we're going to go through this today. Really useful on the go. You're able to send invoices on the go, but you're also able to track invoices on the go. And I get a really quick snapshot of those that have been paid in the last 30 days, as well as those invoices that have been unpaid in the last year. If I click into it, I can see here, for example, I've got some really overdue invoices, which isn't good. An example here, Ivy, £250 shows me it's been sent, that invoice, but notice it hasn't been viewed by her. It also hasn't been paid or deposited, and that's really what I want to know. So to be able to have that timeline is going to be absolutely massive for me to understand if that invoice has been paid or not. Equally, I could always click in and see which invoices have been paid as well. So we can see here, this one from Mr. Webinar example that I'm going to use today. Okay, that invoice has been sent, it's been viewed, and it has been paid. Just something I want to add, by the way, if you are having a look at the app and you're following along, this webinar is being recorded, so don't worry, you'll get a copy of the webinar at the end as well. If you scroll down, we've got expenses. Of course, everything I'm spending on my business this year, really useful if I sit down with my account at the end of the year and I want to make sure that my expenses are being tracked. I'm claiming back all the money I need to on my business. This is something we're going to be covering a little bit more in our next webinar, I believe, looking into the receipt capture, mileage tracking, etc. Much like the profit and loss, you notice in the top right-hand corner of the expenses, it says this year. I can click into it and change it for, let's say, the last 30 days, and just have a look at where my expenses have been spent. And of course, like everything on the app, you can click into it and you can just see a little bit more information there. Finally, at the bottom, and it's something we're going to be covering today again, is our bank feeds. I've got real-time information coming through my bank. Now, notice here the webinar currently is 11:10 a.m. My bank account balances have been updated as of 11:08. So you know what? I've got a really good insight into a snapshot into my bank balances straight away on there. And if I scroll up to the top, we've got the activity side. And again, this works in tandem with QuickBooks Online. So everything you do in the app will immediately impact QuickBooks Online on your desktop or your laptop and vice versa. So we can see the activity that's been undertaken in this QuickBooks license recently, and it's just useful. Did I pay that invoice? Did I get paid on it? Did I recently raise a note, etc.? I can have a look through that and get that insight straight away. It's really worth it having a look through and just having this on the go. At the bottom, you've got three buttons. You've got the home button in the bottom left, which of course will take you back to this screen. And then you've got two other buttons. The first and primary one is the plus button, which is going to give you quick access to features you're going to be using on a regular basis. Now, again, we're going to cover it today, but being able to create an estimate or an invoice on the go, we can do things like add a mileage trip or snap a picture of a receipt or add an expense. And again, the ability to be able to have this to do it on the go and not wait to the end of the week or the end of the month is going to be massive. And if you have some downtime during the day, why not have this to hand? And in the bottom right, finally, you've got what is known in QuickBooks as the burger button. I personally see it as three lines, but if you give that a click on there, you're going to see, again, access to features you're going to be using on a regular basis, but with a bit more of a visual demonstration. So it gives you a bit more obvious of what it is. So the receipt snap in the bottom left, we can see our transactions in the top left. We've got access to a cash flow planner. a 90-day cash flow planner based upon the information coming through our bank. Really useful as a forecasting tool if we are looking to buy an asset for the business or take out a loan, etc. We've got that option in there. If we're looking to see if we've raised an expense, etc. We've got that option as well. But that's just the shortcuts. And if you click all at the top, you're going to see all the features you can be using within the QuickBooks mobile app. Now, I want to stress here, this isn't there to replace QuickBooks Online. It is purely there to offer you that efficiency improvement. And even if you just use the app for one or two things, it's going to be really, really important. I think ultimately the biggest goal here is that we want to be helping you control your business on the go, not just on the computer. QuickBooks is no longer, accounting software is no longer in a position where you just have to use it on your desktop. Now, the quick question coming from Stephen, you don't have the mileage feature. Why would that be? Well, that's there's a very simple answer to that. It's got to be switched on by your accountant. So if you are interested in the mileage feature, you can actually get it switched on. It is something we're going to be covering in the next webinar as well. So come along to that webinar, have a look, see if it's something you want, and then if it is, you can always get it switched on. But thank you for the question. That's a great one. Okay, so let's move on to our first topic. We're going to look into invoicing on the go, quick invoicing, and quicker payments. Now I'm going to touch into the mobile app here, and then I'm going to show you a couple of things in QuickBooks Online as well. And what we're going to look at today is the full end-to-end process. Some of you I know will be creating estimates, some of you won't, but we're going to look at the process of creating an estimate, converting it to an invoice, sending that invoice, tracking the invoice, and potentially receiving payment as well. Now, the process of creating an estimate and creating an invoice are identical on QuickBooks, but I'm going to take you through the full process. So at the bottom, I've got the plus button, quick access to features I'm going to be using on a regular basis. Okay, and I'm going to see create estimate there. Now, this is particularly helpful if you've already got your customers set up and your products and services set up. However, using the mobile app, you are able to create these on the go. So let's say on QuickBooks Online, I already had all my customers created. As such, because the app works in tandem with it, if I click the customer or project at the top, it's going to give me a list of all my customers that I've got. But if there is a customer that I haven't got on there that I'm meeting on the go, etc., I can always click that plus button in the bottom right, and very simply I can just create a customer on the go. I could put a first name, a last name in there, an email address, and that's all I really need to be able to send them an invoice. At a later date, I can go in and I can add more information, billing address, etc. And then QuickBooks Online as well, directly on the computer, I can also add in more information. And for the sake of this webinar, I'm just going to choose Mr. Webinar example as my customer. And then I've got the option to choose an estimate number. Now, what QuickBooks does very cleverly is that it will start, the first ever estimate number will be 1001, and then it will sequentially continue thereafter. So the next one will be 1002, 1003, etc., etc. But you have the option to put a custom-made estimate number in there, which is useful. Let's say if you're in the middle of a financial year, let's say you've currently raised your own invoices or estimates through another software, and let's say you've raised 58. So you could put this number in as 59. And the next invoice, the next estimate that you create will be number 60, 61, 62, etc. And it's a really easy way to stay on top of that. The next thing I want to do is choose the estimate date. Now I'm happy for it being today. And I can even choose when it expires. So some people give an estimate to a customer and they'll say, it's a week, and you can have that on there. But in this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that estimate actually was accepted today. I can even put pending in there, rejected, closed. You can see all the options you've got. I've created this estimate. The customer's accepted it because it was a verbal one. I can even write when they accepted it and who it was accepted by. Okay, so I've got the estimate created. Now, what I need to do is, obviously, what am I estimating the client for? What am I selling? I've got a product or service, and very similar to the customers. If you've got your products and services set up already, you go in and you can choose from the products and services you've already got created. However, if you need to on the go, you can always click the plus button in the bottom right, and you can very simply create one on the go. You will have better functionality doing this in QuickBooks Online, but yeah, if you are on the go, you've got the option. My recommendation is if you've got your customers set up already, and you've got your products and services set up already, look how easy it is to do. So I've already got my customers. Outside of QuickBooks, I do part-time football coaching, £25 an hour. I've got that in there. I can click that. And we can see here that I've got the quantity, I've got the rate, and I can even add a tax code in there. Now, I'm not a VAT registered business, but of course, if you offer, if it's 20% tax, or if you're not sure about how to what tax code you should have on your product or service. This is the question to ask Riverview and your accountant specifically on there. And I'm going to click add. So in a nutshell, really in a couple of minutes, I've created a brand new estimate. I've chosen the customer. I've put an estimate number in there. I've said it's been accepted, and I've put the product in there, and it's ready to go. And I can even put a little message to the customer as well. And I can click save. And that estimate now is ready to go. It's saved in QuickBooks. And if I want, in the top right-hand corner, I've got the pencil button, so I can edit it again. But also, I can go to that 3 buttons in the top, and I could email it to my customer. I could email it to myself. I could export it. I could delete it. I've got loads of options in there. One of the biggest benefits, of course, is if you don't raise the estimate, you can also create the invoice straight away. However, if you do raise the estimate, you can convert it straight to an invoice, which I'll show you in a second. Now, there's a quick question coming from Laura. What does the invoice look like for the client? Great question. You're slightly ahead of me. I'm going to show you what it looks like when I do create it and send it. I'm going to give you the full show. Okay. Vaughan, you've got a quick question. Can you use QuickBooks for more than one small business? You've just registered on the app and it's asking for the business name. Each individual QuickBooks license that you have is for each individual business. So you could have 2 licenses for 2 businesses. You can't have more than one business on the same license. Okay, right. So I've created the estimate. Now, in the times gone by, I would have then had to create a brand new invoice. If I click convert to invoice, all of the information I put in that estimate is now on that invoice, and that's going to save me a heap of time. It's got the customer in there. It's got the product in there. It's ready to go. Okay. Carol, you asked, what about more than one account? Can you clarify a little bit more what you mean about different account on there? So this is my invoice. Okay. I can, again, very similar. The first invoice I create in QuickBooks will be 1001, 1002, etc. Very similar to before. Whatever invoice number I create, the next one will continue after, and it will sequentially continue. For the sake of the webinar, I have, for example, I'm going to use the invoice number to match the estimate number. And again, I've got the customer in there. I've got the invoice number, and I've even got the date in here. And I can choose my net payment terms, what the payment terms I want on my account. If I change that to net 15, for example, notice here it's added 15 days to that date. Of course, if I change that date, naturally, what will happen is the due date will change as well. Okay. And then again, we can put a message to the customer if we want to, and we can click save. Now, that invoice has been created. It has not been sent. If I click send invoice, there's a couple of things I want to show you, and this is going to be a really good question that came in before already that I've answered from Laura. Okay, so first things first, everything is customizable, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in QuickBooks Online as well. But first things first is that I've got my customer, Mr. Webinar example. Mr. Webinar example, based upon when I created that customer, has an email in there, and notice QuickBooks has automatically pulled that email address with that customer. So webinars.quickbooks@gmail.com is Mr. Webinar example's email address. So I don't have to type that in again. The information in the subject line and the email body are both customized by myself. I can change that. I can actually change that as default, or I can change it each individual time. And I've even got the option on the app to customize how those invoices look. Now, I've already spent the time creating my invoice for wanting it to be how it looks. And I'm going to show you in QuickBooks Online the best way to do that. But you can see here, this is a PDF. Okay, I've got my business name in there. I've got what it's for. I've got my logo in there. It's a pretty snazzy invoice. And usually in the bottom left-hand corner, I would have my payment details as well. But that is how the invoice is going to look. Okay, and I will show you how it's all customizable, which is great. Okay, and I can click send. And that invoice has now gone. And we can see here I've got a nice tick on the sent button and today's date as well to tell me when I've sent it. Now, for the sake of this webinar, I've actually attached that email address to this phone. So I'm going to show you what it looks like from a client side as well and explain to you what is customizable and what isn't. He says, hoping that the email comes through. I'm just going to check the email. There we go. Right, the invoice has come through. And we can see here, this is what it would look like from the client side. So I've got my company logo in there. They've got the little message I put in. I've got this little summary page that QuickBooks will create for me. It's very clear. It says when it's due. It says what the amount is. It says who it's billed to. It says what the terms are. And it also says what the amount is as well, which is excellent. Okay. And all I need to do is just click review and pay. Apologies, my phone has just slowed. Sorry, bear with me. My phone has just slowed down. Always is a case. While I am waiting, I will quickly take that off. Okay, not an issue. Let me just quickly reset that. In the meantime, Annette, you've asked a question, which is great. Does the app allow customer name to be back-end converted to a number for your accountant reports? Yes, absolutely. So for each of your customers that you create, you absolutely can you can convert it to a number. You can actually have a customer number associated with each one. So I don't see why not. That would be quite a simple thing to do in QuickBooks. Absolutely. Okay. Just bear with me a second, everyone. Apologies. This is all the fun with technology these days. Just going to show you what that looks like on there. Meanwhile, if you have any other questions, please do let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer them. There we go. It's coming back on again. Okay, quick question coming on the right from Wendy. When you try and email yourself a copy of the invoice, you don't receive it. Have you just checked your junk mail? Sometimes, of course, naturally nowadays, I feel like all of my stuff goes to my junk on QuickBooks. Well, on my email, basically, my email filtering is pretty strong. So, you know, that is something that could happen. Right, okay, so my mobile app has, unfortunately, due to the software, hasn't worked. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just quickly in QuickBooks Online. So remember what we've done is we've sent that invoice, and it's really, really simple. Then once we've sent it, the customer will receive it. They click review and pay. And what will happen is it will tell you as well if it has been paid. So remember, everything we do in QuickBooks on the mobile app will immediately impact in QuickBooks Online. So if I go to my invoices here, okay, and I go down, notice here, this is the invoice that I've just created. Everything's being a bit slow today. There we go. This is the invoice I've just created. We can even see when it's been sent, etc., which is really, really useful. I've got the full amount in there. I've got the billing address. We've got the email address there. I've got the terms, the invoice date, the due date, etc. Okay, and what will happen is, of course, is when the customer then views it, it will mark it as viewed. And I can track that here. Really great. I can see here if it's been viewed or it's been see here, I've got in brackets, I've got viewed, for example, or sent. I've got it's paid but not deposited. It's for cash payment, for example. I've got the overdue ones, and it's really good. So I apologize I wasn't able to show you the full process in there. Very, very simple though. You create an estimate and you can create an estimate, you put a customer name in there with the estimate number, what the product is, and again, then you convert it to an invoice, and then you can send it directly to a customer. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of things I think is really, really worthwhile. Everything you do in the QuickBooks mobile app, of course, can be done in QuickBooks Online. You create a brand new invoice, very, very similar. You can choose the customer, and notice here that the email address comes in there. We've got all of the net payment terms, etc., which is really, really good. Very similar, as I mentioned, with the app. Okay, if you have your customers created already, and you've got your products and services created already, it makes things a lot smoother. So I can just create a brand new customer, for example. Absolutely, I've got all my details in here as well. I can use. when it comes to creating a product and service, I can do exactly the same process here. I can create a brand new either non-stock, service, or bundle on there as well, which is really useful. And I'm going to be able to invoice nice and easily through QuickBooks. Now, a couple of things I really want to show you is there was a question about customization. Now, if I go to in the top right-hand corner to my cog button here, and I go to my account and settings, on the left-hand side, it's going to open up a few options, one of which is sales. This is where I've got all of my default settings. So remember, if we've got this right, we've got the settings all set up in QuickBooks Online. So when we use the mobile app, imagine how easy it is to just send it on the go. You've got this option here at the top to customize the look and feel. So Laura, you asked exactly what it would look like from the customer side. You've got the option here to create multiple invoice templates, estimate templates as well, and sales receipt on there. So let's say I was creating a brand new invoice. I've got three options. I can change the design. I could choose a different format. I could choose a logo, different sizing on there. I could move that, make it bigger, smaller. I could choose different colors. I could put it in bright orange if I wanted to for some reason. I could choose different fonts, and I could choose different margins as well. So you can get it exactly how you want it to. And again, content, I could put in certain things on here. I can add various different pieces of information. In the bottom, I could put my payment details in there as well. And finally, remember I showed you on the app before it crashed, unfortunately, on my phone, you've got a summary page here, which I really like. Again, you can change all of that information that you want. So when a customer receives it, you can make sure it's customized exactly to how you want it to as well. And you can always preview it. And you can create multiple invoices, multiple templates. And the idea behind that is, I know a client I work with, they have like, for example, an invoice for key clients, and they have invoices for just their standard clients, and they have two different invoice templates on there. So that's something that's good to go. Some other things that I think is worthwhile. Now, of course, I mentioned that, when you send an invoice to a customer, you put your payment details in there. In a classic situation, let's say you've got a 30-day payment term. Your client may look at the invoice and think, well, I don't have to pay that for another 30 days, so I'm going to wait. Well, we've got a brand new integration with PayPal. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, PayPal is a intermediary sort of company that deals and allows you to be able to pay directly through them, to pay bills, etc. The end user does not need PayPal. You can set up a brand new free business PayPal account, and what you're able to do is you're able to attach it to your invoices. So what will happen is when your client receives an invoice, they'll have a little button that says pay now via PayPal. And we found that since we launched this in March, approximately 50% of users were paid within the same week as they sent their invoices. Actually, it was on 3 days on average. And we think that speed to payment is really crucial at the moment. And PayPal, what they do is they usually charge 2.9% and 30p transaction fees. Well, actually, with this PayPal integration, we've got a 50% reduction on that, 1.45% and 30p. It's simple for you to set up. The end user does not need PayPal, and you might consider it as an option to connect to PayPal and receive payments a lot easier with your invoices. Finally, again, with being paid quicker, I spend a lot of my time as a small business chasing my clients for to remind them to pay the invoice. Again, if I go to the cog and I go to account and settings, on the left-hand side here, I've got sales, again, which is all my standard sales settings. And one of them I've got is an auto invoice reminder. So this will create up to 3 automatic reminders applying to any new invoices that haven't been paid. Okay, so I'm able to set up a reminder, let's say 5 days before, on the due date, or 1 day after, with a little message saying, please let us know you haven't received payment for this invoice, please pay us. And I find this really, really useful as a tool. It automatically sends out, and once it's been paid, it won't receive another invoice reminder on there, but a really quick and easy way to receive payments easier. Okay, Amanda, you've asked a question. What happens when a customer sends you an invoice outside of QuickBooks? Can it be integrated? Yes, depending on what the software it is you're using. Equally, you can create a second invoice in QuickBooks to sort of mirror it, just so that you can get that in there as well. So again, that's a really quick run through of the invoices on there. Stephen, you've asked a question. Have PayPal improved the security of the services and hence our business data that they hold? That's a good question. That would be a question. That would be something to ask PayPal directly and look into it. They are, as I said, they're a long-time partner of ours. We take data security very seriously, but again, they are a third-party company, so look into it and find out a little bit more information on there. So apologies, I wasn't able to show you the full process with the app, but hopefully you can see on there that you have the ability to be able to invoice on the go, send estimates on the go, and track those payments either in QuickBooks Online or in the mobile app on there. Now there is a poll that I forgot to. Well, I didn't actually mention it before. Let me know, how do you currently invoice? Do you currently invoice? Some people do it through Microsoft Word and Excel. Some people do it through their own invoicing software. Some people do it through QuickBooks as well. So if you want to go to the poll section, just answer that poll. I'm, again, really interested to know how you currently invoice. Fantastic, here we go. Okay, we're going to go into bank feeds on there. Now, Gary, I can see you put a little question there regarding security around bank feeds. Let me tell you a little bit about how the bank feeds have changed in QuickBooks. So in September of last year, legislation was passed through government called open banking. Now, it doesn't just apply to QuickBooks. It would be brilliant if there was legislation just for QuickBooks, but it does apply to the sharing of financial information across any third-party company. From a QuickBooks point of view, what it means is connecting a bank feed to QuickBooks is as easy as it's ever been, and it's secure as it can be with military encryption. There is now a standardized process across all banks, giving you a much better user experience and feeling a lot more secure as well. Since the bank feeds are controlled by the bank, it's no longer controlled by any third-party companies such as QuickBooks. And what that up-to-date bank feed will provide you with is real-time information as it comes through the bank. If you want real-time insights, my expenses, my profit and loss, my sales, my invoices, connect your bank feed. It is the best way to get that. And I'm going to get a real-time view of how my business is performing. It leads to much better conversations with my accountant. It leads to much better conversations regarding my business and knowing exactly where I'm at with my business. Okay, so let me tell you what you need to do. You have to update it every 3 months. And again, this is a security piece put in by the banks to ensure that the end user is still the end user that they said they were at the beginning. This has huge time-saving pieces. You don't have to print off PDFs, CSV statements, giving it to your accountant. You're always on top of your business as well, okay? So to start with, you go on the left-hand side and you've either got transactions or banking. QuickBooks is currently undergoing a little bit of an update, but it will either say transactions or banking on the left-hand side. You click banking there. Okay, now notice here, I've already got my HSBC bank account connected, and I've got, and this is why it's so useful, I've got all of my payments that I've spent, all the money out of my business, and all the money I've received. And what this will allow me to do in real time is for every payment I've spent, match it to an expense or match it to a bill, okay? And every payment I've received, I need to match to an invoice. And what it will be is like balancing a checkbook. You're in a position when you then have all of your all of your payments to spend, all the payments that you spent matched up to an invoice, all the payments you've received matched to those expenses and those bills. And the process of setting up is as simple as possible. And I'm going to show you the entire process now. Let me just quickly reshare my screen. I can have multiple bank accounts connected to my QuickBooks. Of course, if I have multiple business accounts, as an example there was previously, absolutely. I click link account, and it's going to open a window, and it's going to give me the option to connect my bank account. Now, it does have some popular ones at the bottom. Personally, I believe what you should do is just type it in. So it does say Barclays at the bottom, but if I did type in Barclays, you'll notice there are 15 different types of Barclays accounts. There's the business account, the personal account, there's the Barclays card account, there's the Barclays wealth account. So just make sure you type in at the top what you're using. And in this particular case, I'm going to use Monzo. There's a challenger bank. Okay. I'm going to click into it. Now, although there's a standardized process across all the business or across all the banks, every bank will ask you for different information to sign in. And this is what I want to point out. This is the most important stage of open banking. If I click continue here, okay, I have this consent to connect for 90 days. This is a piece of legislation created by the government, of course, and with the banks to connect every 90 days. And what it's going to allow is Intuit to generate financial reports and other consolidated information until, in this case, the 20th of January. All of that information I showed you has come through my bank feeds. And if I click agree, it opens up another window. And the really important part about this window that opens up is notice the URL at the top. You're no longer in QuickBooks. This is the exact same way as if you're connecting to your online banking. So you go onto Google, you type in Monzo, and you connect to them directly. It's exactly the same thing. We're going directly to Monzo and to connect. So I put in in this case, my account number, my sort code, and my email address. My HSBC account, very different. It asks me for my username, a password, and I believe a 6-digit code that I create with my app. With Monzo, I put that information in, and I click continue. And what it does, it sends me a push notification through to Monzo, and I can click continue. And what's going to happen now is I put that information in, Monzo have said great, and now I've gone back into QuickBooks. So I want to stress here, you're no longer connecting, if I can get the word out, you're no longer connecting directly to QuickBooks, you're directly connecting to your bank, the same way you connect to online banking. And the benefits of this are so important, they're huge, and it's going to give me the ability to have a real-time view of my business. If you want to be able to be in line with your business, have conversations with your accountant that are up to date, this is the way to do it. Now I'm going to be able to choose which account to connect. Now Monzo only has a current account. If I had a savings account or a credit account, I'd be able to choose those separately. This is the account I want, and I'm going to connect it as a Monzo current account. And you're able to bring in up to 2 years worth of transactional information. It's one of the benefits of online banking, or in this case, open banking. In this case, with Monzo, I've only had that account since the 1st of October 2019. So I could bring all the information in from there. Now, this is what I want to stress here. Just because you can bring in all that information doesn't mean you should. Realistically, you only need to, at the absolute maximum, bring in information from the start of your financial year. And if you're not sure how much information to bring in, check with Riverview and check on the amount that you should be bringing in. In this case, I could bring in today, I could bring in this month, this year. I'm going to choose the 1st of April 2020. That's the start of my financial year. And I can click connect. And what it's going to do is going to connect. And as I mentioned, this will connect for 90 days. Okay. Gary, great question. Is there not a risk of duplicating entries if you are mid-year? Yes, there is. That's why you need to check the date you want to choose of how much information to bring in. Of course, if you already have information in QuickBooks, let's say up to the 1st of October, you're only going to want to choose when you connect your bank balance from the 1st of October. If you choose the 1st of July, you're going to absolutely duplicate some of those entries. So just triple check the date, make the right decision on there. And I think that's really, really important. Okay. Now, after 75 days, I'm going to get a little exclamation mark here or here and a little banner that says, hey, you're coming up to the 90 days, reconnect. And the way that I connected the first time directly through Monzo will be the exact same way that I reconnect, okay, again, through Monzo. You want to be in a situation where you're reconnecting between the 75 days and the 90 days. If you go beyond those 90 days, then absolutely you're going to have to choose the date, and there might be a chance of duplication. If you do it in the 75 or 90 days, you just reconnect as of that date, and the system will continue thereafter. And notice here, I've connected Monzo. It took literally a couple of minutes. I've got all of the money I've spent, all of the money I've received, and I'm now going to be in a position where I'm going to start being able to match up some of that payments. You see, I received £50 here. I've got an invoice outstanding, and I can start matching up those payments on there. Okay. Annette, you've asked a question. Do we have any links with SumUp? I'm not sure what that is. If you could clarify, that would be great. Sorry. So that is how, ladies and gentlemen, you collect your bank balance. It's really, really easy. Okay. Now, Wendy, you've raised a really good question here. You said you have 4 HSBC business accounts, 2 of which are credit card accounts, and QuickBooks has stopped connecting to these since April, even though you've tried several times to reconnect. Now, as part of the open banking legislation, it is very easy for me to stand here and say it's not a QuickBooks fault, but how it works with open banking, with the banks now being in control of these feeds from a security point of view, if the bank stops releasing something called an API, so the ability to connect to it, we're not going to be able to connect to it. I'm going to share a link out with Dan after the webinar to send to everyone, which is going to give you an up-to-date list of all the bank accounts that you can connect to with QuickBooks. If your bank account is not one of the ones that can connect, and by the way, this would be the same with Xero or Sage, it's just how the bank releases their API, you are going to have to be in a situation where you might have to upload it initially until it reconnects, and then you'll have that ability to do that in there. Now, something I really want to point out really quickly here is the option you've got in regards to some of the bank rules. I'm just going to delete this one, and I'm going to show you that one again. Now, you'll notice here I've got all of my bank balances, all my bank transactions in here, and there is a functionality in QuickBooks called bank rules. Now, bank rules again is completely free, and it's going to save you time by setting up automatic categorization of regular recurring transactions. Most common, direct debits. So if I go to my bank feed here, and I've got loads of transactions in here, we can see here that on the 24th of August, I've got a payment out for £23.98 for Vodafone, and it's currently called an uncategorized expense. And I bet you if I go to the next page, again, same sort of similar time of the month, 22nd of July, Vodafone, £23.98, uncategorized expense. Now, to save me going into each one of these transactions, clicking on it and telling QuickBooks it's not an uncategorized expense, it's actually, if I can find it, it's actually my telephone expense, and having to do that each time, I can create a bank rule. So at the top of your screen, you've got banking and you've got bank rules. And I'm able to find out a little bit more information about bank rules here. We're going to send you a post-webinar guide, which is going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to connect your bank and also how to connect the bank rules. So when that loads, you can look at that. But simply put, I can create a brand new rule, and I can have an unlimited amount of rules to help with this automatic categorization of my payments received and spent here. And I can call the rule whatever I want. So in this case, I'm going to call it my Vodafone phone bill. And the brilliant thing is, once I've created the rule, it's going to apply to all my transactions thereafter. So anything I haven't reviewed yet, it will apply it. Now I'm able to apply a bank rule to either money in or money out transactions. So maybe there's constant recurring transactions I have coming into my bank, and maybe there's constant transaction I have coming out. In this case, I'm going to say money out. And again, if I have multiple bank accounts connected, I could even choose which account I want it to connect to. It's only HSBC that I want this rule applied to. And then what I'm able to do is set up various conditions. So in this case, I can say to QuickBooks, listen, if you see a money out transaction from my HSBC account, which has the word Vodafone in the description, or if it is, again, in the bank text, it might either contain or doesn't contains the word Vodafone, just checking it, then what I want you to do is I want you to assign it as an expense. And I want you to categorize it as a telephone bill. And I can even, if I wanted to, put a payee in there, or if I've got one already created, I've got that in there. Now, sometimes when you create a rule, it's going to give you the option to automatically confirm transactions this rule applies to. Personally, I think keep that off, so it's grey, not green, okay? Because I want to be able to see if it works first. So I basically create a rule that I've said, QuickBooks, if you see a payment going out in my HSBC account that has the word Vodafone in it, please apply it as a telephone expense. And I want to click save. And if you're not sure how to categorize expenses, this is a conversation to have with Riverview and just make sure it's absolutely correct. Now, if I go down to my bank feed and I go to those transactions, those monthly recurring direct debits, here we go. On the 24th of August, I had £23.98 going out with Vodafone. And notice here, if I click into it, it's got the category as telephone. It's got the supplier as Vodafone. So now I'm in a position that when I've raised the bill, or I've raised the expense, for example, in this case, it would be a bill, I can then match it and it will all be aligned perfectly. So when it comes to my expense claim at the end of the year, I'm in a much better position. Again, every single one of these is going to have that rule, and that's green box there with a telephone. That's how I've categorized it. Now, imagine if you had created multiple rules, you pretty much account for every recurring transaction coming in and out of QuickBooks. You could have all these rules set up, save yourself time moving forward, and you're going to be in a really good position when it comes to doing your books on there. Okay, so that's a really quick run through of the rules as well on there. So if you have any questions, let me know. Annette, you mentioned Sum Up, so it allows you to take mobile car payments cheaper than PayPal, and you can invoice from it. So QuickBooks has multiple integrations. You can go to www.apps.com. Yes, we do own that. And then what you're going to be able to do is you'll be able to type in SumUp, and you'll be able to see whether there's an integration. Have a read about it, see if there's a cost associated with it, see if how it works, and you can decide if you want to use it. But yeah, I put the little address in there below the question. Right, so today we have covered the mobile app. We looked into quick invoicing and quicker payments, and I apologize again about the app sort of failing towards the end there, but hopefully I showed you enough in there as well regarding the invoicing, how to do it through QuickBooks Online as well. How to connect to bank feeds, so hopefully I've allayed a couple of your fears regarding that, and also bank rules. What we're going to do is we're going to send you Dan's going to send you some post-webinar guides we've created, which are step-by-step guides on how to invoice on the go. So everything I've covered today, but in a step-by-step guide. And I'm going to send you something on the bank feeds and the bank rules as well. So a really useful sort of post-webinar tool. You're going to get a copy of this recording as well. And if you have any questions about it, you can let us know moving forward. Now, we've got another webinar in the diary for next Thursday, I believe. Is that right, Dan? I think it is. And I'm just going to check what it is on. We're going to be covering receipt capture. Thanks, Carol. Yeah, at 1 p.m. We're going to be covering receipt capture. We're going to be, which is a brilliant tool to be able to help you claim your expenses. Mileage tracking, very similar. We're going to be able to help you claim your mileage. And we're going to look into the cash flow planner that I mentioned, that 90-day cash flow planner. We're going to briefly mention it just to show you what you can do. What I would ask as well is thank you all for attending. In the poll section, this is absolutely crucial. If you scroll down the page, please let us know, did you find this webinar useful? Did you find it a good use of your time? So please let us know yes or no. And finally, what I want to mention is alongside our relationship with Riverview, we are offering free QuickBooks onboarding / refresher sessions. Now, this is a session run on Zoom by myself, a little bit more interactive because I'll be able to see you as well. It's more of like a do it with me session, and we're covering all the basics of QuickBooks. So we'll go through the settings, we'll go through connecting your bank feed, rules, creating a customer, creating a supplier, creating an invoice, creating an expense, using the receipt capture. It's an hour and a half long, but it's a really useful session. And again, it gives you an opportunity to ask some questions. Whether you're brand new to QuickBooks or you've been using it for a while, but you just want to refresh on some of those basic topics, feel free to let us know. You're not committing to anything. If you scroll down the page in that poll section, just below, once you've answered, did you find the webinar useful? Let us know if you're interested in one of those sessions, and we'll tell you some more information about it, and you can decide if it's something that you'd like to do, and Dan will send out some information. But from my side, thank you very much for your time here today. Dan, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so. Thank you, obviously, Jacob, for your time going through that. It was great. I can see a couple of people have emailed me and stuff already with some queries and things. So if there are questions, as Jacob said, then do let me know. The team here would be pleased to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And Laura, thank you for your little comment there as well. It is a brilliant product. Really, we're keen for you to have a go with it. The benefit of QuickBooks is that it's invented for small businesses. So it should be useful for you to be able to use for your business. It's really malleable. You can apply it to different industries. And absolutely, thank you for your help, regarding the technological issues. It happens to everyone, unfortunately, at the best of times. But thank you all for your time, your input, your questions, your comments. Fill in those polls before you go. And yeah, brilliant. Have a great rest of the week and a weekend ahead. Speak to you all soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.